Life after Microsoft Windows. DaVinci Resolve, unrealized performance. Let's check it out. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time today. We have a little bit of fireside. So good. Do you love this mug? Come on, tell me the truth. Love Jack. Love Jack. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. We're going to make another addition to the Life After Microsoft Windows series. That's what today is going to be all about. And I'm going to give you some new data that I've found out about how to get the most out of your DaVinci Resolve. It doesn't matter if it's the free version or the paid version, which I'm using, the studio version, it really doesn't matter. DaVinci Resolve has a problem with exporting MP4s, and there's workarounds, and I'm going to tell you about it. But also, I'm going to tell you how I got 400% faster export speeds. 400%, that's 4x. That is unbelievable. And I'm going to tell you exactly how much it cost for me to do it and all of the hoops and the different things I had to go through to be able to get there. I did a lot of research and a lot of testing so that you don't have to. All right. So before we get into this, I want to say that if you enjoy the video, throw it a thumbs up. That's very, very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not. If you are, I appreciate that. Click this little notification button over here so when I go live when a new video comes out, you'll be notified of it immediately. And if you want any of my free ebooks, check them out. Go to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. They are free for you just being here. And if you want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button right down there. You can click on that, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. And if you want more Life After Microsoft Windows content, I'll put a link here. Don't click on it yet. I'll put a link here. When you're done watching this video, click there and you'll get a whole bunch of other videos I've done just on this topic. As you can see, I have my Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series shirt that I created 5 years ago. And you guys have asked me to create a Life After Microsoft Windows shirt, and I am in the process of doing it. So keep looking out in the store. You will see it very soon. That's at JCristina.com. Once again, JCristina.com. So let's jump right into this. Now, what the heck did I do? I'm going to break this down on all the different steps that I went through and what my results are, because it's all about results. It's not just talking and just guessing. So I actually did all of the work and then compiled it all for you, so you don't have to do all that work yourself. Now, I started out with a Ryzen 7 1700 CPU and a GPU, which was a GTX 1070. That's how this journey started. And that is going to be the reference, all right? That will be the reference, or 0% increase. Now, just to give you an idea, it originally took, let's say a 20-minute video, it would take like 19 minutes to export. Basically a 1-to-1. If it was a 10-minute video, it would be about 10 minutes to export. That is through DaVinci Resolve. Not great, but it was actually faster than what the exact same hardware was doing within Windows. So Linux did give me a bump of about 20%, which wasn't bad. The bottom line is if you are a creator, all right, or if you do a lot of video editing, the three things that we want as creators is, number one, faster export speeds. Number two, we want smaller files for uploading, because uploading does take a good amount of time, especially if you're not on fiber. And then number three would be still high quality videos. You could always crunch things down to such a degree that everyone looks like Minecraft, but we don't want like pixelated people, right? So we want our videos still to be high quality, especially if we're uploading 4K. Now, before I get into the speeds and what I did to get to those different speeds and everything else, I just want to say that DaVinci Resolve on Linux doesn't like MP4. It doesn't matter, once again, if you have the paid version or the free version, it just does not export MP4. Maybe it's a codec thing, maybe it's some type of money thing where they have to pay for, who knows? I really don't know what the situation is, but with Windows it will. With Linux, it doesn't. So you have to do a workaround. The workaround is to export an MKV file or a .mov file or an MOV file. Either which way will definitely work. Whereas if you export an MP4, the video will show up, but there's no audio. It's an issue. I know, but that's the way it is. We have to work around it. So that's to start out with, just so you know that. So if you're getting involved with Linux and DaVinci Resolve, that is one of those hoops that you have to go through. We need to figure out if we're going to use a .mkv file or a .mov file, a QuickTime file, which works out better. Now, there's another thing here that you need to know. If you export using, let's say, an NVIDIA card like what I use, and you want to use the encoder, the built-in NVIDIA encoder, to supposedly speed things up, that encoder will not activate. It will not work if you are using a QuickTime exporting method. Bear that in mind. But, and this is where the big but comes in here, guys, the big but, is that not only QuickTime exports are faster, but the files are smaller. Who would have thunk it? So it doesn't matter if you export an MKV file with AV1 or H.265 or H.264, it doesn't matter. The files are at least double the size, sometimes triple the size in comparison to a .mov file. And once again, the speeds are much better. So let me give you an example here. When I was exporting an MKV file and I was using H.264 or even H.265, the export time for a video that was about 20 minutes and 38 seconds, the export time was 7 minutes and 20 seconds. But the exact same export, the exact same timeline, exporting to a QuickTime or a .mov file took 5 minutes and 31 seconds. So 7 minutes, 20 seconds to 5 minutes and 31 seconds. That is a big improvement. It's almost 2 minutes faster, not quite, but almost 2 minutes faster using a QuickTime MOV in comparison to an MKV. What I find interesting here is that the QuickTime, once again, does not use this graphic card's encoder. It's using 0% of the encoder. Whereas using MKV, it is using the encoder to 100% of its capacity. So as we can see here, the DaVinci Resolve doesn't care so much about that encoder when it comes to exporting an MKV file. It doesn't really make a difference to it. As you can see, it's actually better using just a QuickTime method of export. Now, a lot of people wouldn't get this. They would think that I want to make sure that I have this high-end GPU. I want to use that GPU's encoder to be able to encode my files because it's going to be faster. And the bottom line is, once again, it's not. That is with a ton of testing, all right? Now, if someone gets this different than me, let me know because we're here to learn together. But as of all of my testing, it doesn't matter if it's AV1 or H.264 or H.265 or whatever, it is slower and the files are double the size and sometimes triple the size with no added benefit to the quality of the video. You put them side by side and you will not notice a difference, and I am exporting at 4K. So that's number one. The next thing that I want to tell you is that I did another upgrade. At the same time that I upgraded from that 1700 to a 3800 Ryzen CPU, I upgraded the GPU. The GPU upgraded went from that GTX 1070 to an RTX 3060. The 3060 has 12 gigabytes of RAM on it. Now, how did that improve things? Well, a lot. So the 20-minute and 38-second video, instead of taking, it was like 1850 or let's say 19 minutes to export with the old setup, it ended up exporting in 6 minutes and 4 seconds. That is a 300% increase in speeds. 300%. Now, that was with the 3060. And then, if you remember in the video that I created, I brought in a 4060 to replace the 3060 GPU to see if that would improve things. It went from 12 gigabytes of RAM to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it was a faster clock and everything else. But what do you think the speeds were? That export of the 20-minute and 38 seconds with the 3060 was 6 minutes and 4 seconds, which was great, 300% increase. With the 4060, it was 6 minutes and 4 seconds. It was literally identical with a card that costs over $180 some more. Identical. Now, did you get other improvements with that 4060? You did. I'll get into that in just a second. Now, I decided to upgrade once again. And I said, the 4060 I'm going to keep because pound for pound, it's good enough for the money that I want to spend. Now, can I spend $1,000 or more on a video board? Absolutely, I can, and get even more power out of it. But for the money, that is the best bang for the buck as of right now. So I want to keep that 4060. So I said, let's go ahead and upgrade our CPU. I went from the 1700X to the 3800X, which once again gave us a 300% increase. Well, I've now brought in this, which is a 5950. This CPU is once again a little bit more powerful, but it is the maximum that I can get for my motherboard. So without having to buy a brand new motherboard, this is what I can use. That is a Ryzen 9, not a Ryzen 7, a Ryzen 9 5950X. So this is what we're using now. Now, what did we see for render speeds? Were they faster? Were they the same? Well, they were faster, much faster. So that 20-minute and 38-second video, instead of taking 6 minutes and 4 seconds, it took 5 minutes and 31 seconds. That comes to, instead of a 300% increase from baseline, to a 400% increase from that reference. That is a major increase, 400%. So basically a 20-minute video takes me 5 minutes to render. I'm loving that. That is awesome. And the side to that is I use a video game called Guild Wars 2. And some of you guys have seen me play that. I've played it, matter of fact, in this series. Go take a look at that series when you're done watching this video. And the maximum speeds that I were getting with that 4060 card, all right, that GPU, with that 3800, I was getting about 100 to 106 FPS. That was maximum in an area where there's like no one else around because it's an MMO. Anyways, with the new setup, which basically has the exact same card, the 4060, but it has the new CPU, I was seeing FPS not at maximum of 106. I was seeing FPS at about 160 to 170 FPS in the same areas where there's no one around. That is mega. I wouldn't have thunk it. There is no way that I would have said that simply upgrading the CPU would actually increase the FPS of a video game. Now, we know that a lot of the video games are very GPU centric, right? They really use the GPU a lot. Other video games like Guild Wars 2, it uses a combination. It's like a hybrid. It uses the GPU, but it also uses a lot of the CPU. So this CPU just made a mega difference. And as we can see, it made a substantial difference when it came to rendering. And those are the two things that I've been trying to see how good I can get them using a Linux system. So how much does it cost, right? And what are the positives and negatives of going each way? Once again, the reference is at 1700 CPU with a GTX 1070. Now, when we move to that 3800, the cost of the CPU for the 3800 is $219. And the GPU, when we move from the 1070 to the 360 RTX, that was a cost of $265. So a total cost of $484. Now, what's really interesting here is when we moved once again from that 3060 to the 4060, that cost about $180 more. The cost of the CPU is still $219, but the CPU, the cost of that was $449 in comparison to $265, and we got the exact same export speed of 6 minutes and 4 seconds. There was no decrease in the length of time it took to export video. So that means to me, if you want to be able to get a 300% increase, I wouldn't even go with the 4060, just go with the 3060. You're going to get the exact same 300% increase in DaVinci Resolve. Now, if you're using it for AI, if you're using it for any type of ray tracing, or you want greater FPS, well, the 4060 is the way to go because it is a 16 gigabyte card compared to a 12 gigabyte card, and it is just simply a faster clock speed. So for the $180, if you're doing some type of hybrid build where you are going to be rendering a lot, but you're going to be playing a lot of games too, then the $180 is worth it. But if you're only rendering, guys, the 3060 is the way to go. That thing is just an amazing sale. $265 for that card is hands down the best deal out there, period, in my personal opinion. Now, as of today, when we moved into that 4060 and the new CPU, which is that Ryzen 9, that 5950X, we saw that increase of 400% compared to 300%, and a massive increase when it comes to FPS in the reference game that I played. Now, the difference in the cost is substantial. The cost for the CPU was $348, whereas the GPU was once again $449. So the total, when we use that 3800 with that 4060, was $668 in comparison to the latest setup, which is that Ryzen 9 5950 plus the 4060 graphic card. That in totality is $797. So let's call it $800. So if we round off, let's say the very beginning is, let's say $500, it's $484, $500. Then from $500, we went to $700, and from $700, we went to $800. So in my personal opinion, by doing everything I've done, and I've tested everything over and over and over for hours and hours and hours on end, this current setup at 4x the export speed, 400% faster, to me, is worth that $797 all day long, because I will make that back in time spended or less time spended when it comes to exporting these videos, number one. Also, using a QuickTime, an MOV file, in comparison to an MKV file in DaVinci Resolve in Linux just simply makes sense because everything is faster and the file sizes are smaller and you're not getting any degradation in your quality. That is so important. Once again, what are those three things that we must see as content creators or video creators? We want faster speeds when it comes to export. We want the smallest file size as possible. And of course, finally, we want to make sure that the quality is 100% what we need it to be. That means we're not going to degrade the quality to export faster, or we're not going to degrade the quality to export a smaller file. We still need to have that high-end quality, but at a faster speed. So guys, to sum up, you're not going to get faster speeds if you use your NVIDIA encoder, all right? It's just simply not going to happen when you're using a Linux DaVinci Resolve system. It's not going to help you. Use QuickTime. Trust me, I've done the testing, all right? You're going to end up with bigger files and it's going to take slower to export. Also, if you're going to upgrade and you want the lowest cost and you're doing this type of setup and you want to get a new GPU and you want to go down the road of NVIDIA, I personally would recommend NVIDIA over AMD because I've done the testing on that too. And NVIDIA is just simply a better system when it comes to DaVinci Resolve. And the reason being is DaVinci Resolve loves CUDA cores. They just love that entire platform in comparison to AMD. That said, if you're just a gamer on Linux, AMD is probably the way to go, dollars to dollars. Now, we're not gamers, right? We do that secondary. But as a content creator, I would recommend upgrading your CPU so that your CPU is not a bottleneck, number one. And also upgrading your GPU. My suggestion is, if you're looking for something that's low cost, $265, really look into that RTX 3060. I'm going to put a link down below because I think it's going to be going on sale. I'm going to keep linking to the sale prices as they go. So it doesn't matter if you're watching the video now, if you watch it in 2 months from now, I'm going to keep that link up to date because I think it's very important and it is something that I highly recommend. Because doing all of the tests, I'm getting the same performance, the same speed when it comes to exporting with it comparison to the $185 more card of the 4060. So guys, I hope you found this at least interesting, maybe entertaining. If you did, throw the video a thumbs up. That would be very helpful. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the many years of my merch and my shirts and my tees and my books and everything else. If you see something over there, pick it up and help support me and my family. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and stay Windows free. Take care, guys.